Hello, my fibromyalgia friends. Welcome to our nutrition and fibromyalgia video series from the Support Fibromyalgia Network. This is going to be Nutrition 101, where we go through some of the basics of health and wellness. I'm Melissa Tolwar. I am a board-certified functional medicine health coach with additional training in nutrition and neuroscience. I'm also the executive director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network, and I've been a fibromyalgia patient since I was a teenager. We're going to have a series of videos presented to you, so stay tuned for more. And if there is a topic you would like us to cover, please do let us know. This information is educational material only and is not intended to take the place of medical advice from your healthcare provider or physicians. Please seek medical care from a qualified professional regarding management of your fibromyalgia. When we talk about food, we want everyone to realize food is medicine. So food gives information to our body. If the body is not given the right information, it will not function well, and we see health decline. Now, nutrition is going to vary from person to person. As you see in the fibromyalgia community, one person responds to one nutritional plan while another, it doesn't necessarily work for it. So we have to remember that this is going to be personalized. So whatever journey you decide to take with nutrition, to personalize it, find joy. See how it really relates to your lifestyle and make sure it doesn't create extra stress. So for these series of videos, we want to create more awareness around food and nutrition. And again, how we can add in some wonderful beneficial foods into your life. Food has the ability to turn on and off genes that control disease risk, lifespan, and metabolism. I do want to acknowledge the overwhelm and the stress that comes with this as being a fibromyalgia patient. There's different information on the internet. It doesn't always match each other. So even if you find like a paleo version for fibromyalgia, you might find a totally different paleo version somewhere else that doesn't match up with what you're doing. And then everybody has a different answer for you. Everyone has a different approach. Now, fibromyalgia research is already low in our funding when it becomes with pathophysiology to begin with. Nutrition is even less. So some of the studies we've been relying on to give us these nutritional information are more than 5 years old. They have small cohorts of patients in the study, and there's some bias, and also there's some contradicting information from some other communities too. So how do we make any sense of this and what we're pulling in from, because it is very overwhelming, and figuring out what we're going to do, how we're going to go grocery shopping, how we're going to cook the food, how we're going to even have enough energy to even eat the food. Sometimes it makes it really difficult. And I want to also ensure there's no shame or judgment involved in this. I know there's a lot of stigmas, and when you walk into a doctor's office, you're told to do one thing, but you don't even know how to implement it. So that's why we're creating a community of support around this, so we can help use these tools together, navigate, share our experiences, so that we can improve the environment for all of us in the community. And here's just an example of anything and everything you can choose from in the fibromyalgia community. I'm sure someone has shared this with you on social media that this worked for them. We still don't have a diet for fibromyalgia that we've seen to cure or even prevent. We do know from patient experiences that they do have nutritional changes, has shown from what we've heard on various patients that it can decrease your symptoms. What that looks like for each patient is going to differ. We are pulling in from other communities like chronic pain, things like arthritis, autoimmune conditions, and even neurological conditions that have a little bit more in-depth research. So we're trying to pull in some of that information in this roadmap to see if anything of that sort applies. But really get curious, maybe pick one of these and go with it and see if it works with your lifestyle. Some of these are very restrictive and might even create more stress, and that's something we do not want. Because if you keep adding stress around food, you're going to continue to have digestive issues, sleep issues. You're going to increase your inflammation. So we want to minimize the stress when you're adding in a new lifestyle change, and especially with nutrition. So you're going to be aware of what works for your circumstances. If you're cooking for a family, you might have to adjust. If you're traveling, and things like if you're moving right now or in an incredibly personal, stressful situation, this might not be the time to do an elimination diet, and that's okay. But you've learned and you can adapt, and there's little things that you can do that we'll get into our video series to give you some tips to start the process a little bit more. And here's just an example of some of the differences. If you look online, you'll see all kinds of images of what your plate should look like. Here's an example from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. They do have free handouts, so we're going to include this as a resource if anyone's interested. And their approach is a whole food, plant-based diet. And this is going to emphasize a pattern of variety of nutrient-dense, minimally processed, really focused on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And you already may have done some of this food tracking where you know that beans and legumes do not work with you and you're already gluten-free. So this plate is going to look totally different, and that's okay. That's what we're working with. So this is education. This is awareness around what feels good to you and what makes sense for your life right now. Overall, most of those dietary protocols and nutritional changes, there's a few exceptions because they take out a lot of different foods. But in the end, we want to focus on the decreasing of disease burden, decreasing your symptoms. A lot of these protocols, ultimately, our approach is to decrease inflammation in the body and then balance out blood sugars. So they're all in agreement for the most part. There's some differences here when we talk about lectins and all of the go deeper dives, is that we're looking to add in more nutrient-dense vegetables and fruits, and you'll eat a rainbow of color on your plate. We're looking to minimize processed foods, decrease in intake of refined sugars. They add sugars to everything. So we're going to do an additional video on reading food labels so you can look out for those added sugars, because even with vegetable meals, if they're pre-seasoned, you have to keep an eye out for those sugars. So learning to read food labels as part of nutrition education is super important when you're shopping. Any movement towards nutrient-dense foods, honestly, is a positive win. So if this stresses you out to start figuring out what to take out, think about what you can add in. And a great place to start is adding in a variety of vegetables and exploring what that looks like. If anyone's a vegetable gardener, you know that there's quite a variety of leafy greens and vegetables that you can grow in the garden seasonally. That goes for what you can purchase at the grocery store and cook with as well. So try experimenting with a variety of leafy greens other than maybe romaines. You can look at arugulas, collard greens, cabbages. There's so many ways to go with colorful vegetables. So you're really adding a lot of colorful things to your plate. Then it is personalized and sustainable approaches. So these are all the recommendations on all the dietary changes. So we know that you may pick something like a paleo, but you may have to personalize it for yourself because you notice things don't really work for you, and that's okay. And what we're looking for is sustainable approaches. If this does decrease your symptoms, how do you can keep this up for long term and not get overwhelmed by it? And some of the restrictive protocols that are supposed to be temporary, like there's some on the list that are temporary that you would adopt, but if they're so restrictive, you might just come back and be like, you hate this approach. You start eating everything. It just affects you differently and you give up. So we really don't want you to give up. So small changes towards adding in nutrient dense foods is going to be a positive win. Here's a diagram of just blood sugars. When we're talking about balancing blood sugars for general health and wellness, you see the impact of some of these macronutrients when it comes to the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So carbohydrates will give us that quick energy fix. So this is why things like refined carbs and refined sugars give us that quick energy fix, but we're going to drop out with some of the energy. So the proteins and fats are a little bit more sustainable. You don't get as big of a bump in your blood sugar, and create awareness around this. If you are tracking with a blood glucose monitor or a continuous glucose monitor, you're starting to see the results and you're starting to see the impact food has and how it affects your blood sugar over time. Now, what exactly is blood sugar? Blood sugar is how your cells in your body get energy. When you eat food, your body breaks down the molecule into glucose. Your pancreas then releases insulin to prepare your cells to utilize the glucose as energy. If we have too much glucose, our body stores it. So if we consistently have too much glucose in our bloodstream, this high amount of blood sugar, we can develop insulin resistance, where our cells need more insulin in order to be able to absorb the needed energy. This leads to a lot of cardiometabolic diseases. So this is why we want to try to avoid these highs and then these crashes where we might be craving more foods, get into a cycle, a jittery, we're hangry all the time, or we're really, really hangry when we need food. It contributes to anxiety. It also adds to inflammation and chronic inflammation. So see if you notice these changes when you're eating a high carbohydrate meal. Like, how do you feel after eating that meal? Do you get any sort of amount of joint pain, more brain fog, digestive issues? Notice those changes and you can document them if you feel comfortable in a food diary, voice memo. You can use applications like Chronometer as well. So here's an example of this food crash cycle with low quality foods. And when we talk about refined sugars and carbs, again, it's that really big boost of energy. And sometimes when we're stressed out, we have a lot of high pain. We don't want to do anything. The last thing we want to do is cook for ourselves. So we may reach for those convenient foods. And it's difficult then to stop this food crash cycle because our blood glucose will spike, crash, we're hungry again, we get more fatigue, might increase our fatigue, weakness, and even pain. This also will affect our sleep, especially if you're eating more of the sugary foods prior to bedtime, because it does disrupt hormones, and then you'll get more cravings even in the evening. So I really wanted to share this. This is a viral meme that goes around and people share with the amount of sugar. And again, no shame or judgment here. We're just creating this awareness on the sugar and creating some visual examples. So, and how we're marketed to, we're really marketed to in a different way. And they add so much sugar to everything, even things that are supposed to be healthy for us, with some of the juices. Now, juicing is very, very popular for some people. Some people can handle it really well, others cannot. So realize that it's not your fault if your body does not respond to things that maybe sound healthy, but put it into perspective too with those visuals. So you have 41 grams of sugar in the orange juice. And if anyone's ever juiced oranges before, you can see how much juice you get from multiple oranges. So you would never really eat a dozen oranges in one sitting to drink what you've actually juiced. And then there's different things with processed added sugars in some of these as well, as opposed to juicing your own oranges straight from the orange itself. But just imagine, okay, you have 10 teaspoons in the morning. You've woken up, you want your morning coffee or your tea. You take that teaspoon and you put 10 teaspoons of sugar. So you can go into the kitchen the next time, grab a teaspoon, and then visualize yourself adding 10 teaspoons of sugar to a morning coffee beverage or the tea. Like, does that sound like the way you want to start your day? And will that make sense now on why you might be crashing throughout the day? So it's really creating awareness around this. And if you're going and adding in and buying those beverages, those coffee beverages in the morning and pairing it up with potentially a muffin with a lot of sugar and sugar that kind of compares to even a cupcake, what is your day going to look like moving forward? And I know we're looking for these quick energy fixes, the convenience of food, so this makes it difficult and how we can prepare ourselves. And I'll have some tips in other videos as well. Some of the fundamentals for health and nutrition is, so proteins, fats, carbs are the main types of macronutrients that provide our body energy. We'll also get into some of the importance of fiber. So when we talk about proteins, this includes animal and plant sources. Proteins repair cells, support muscle development, tissue repair, and can help stabilize blood sugar. And proteins can include anything from beef, bone broth, chicken, eggs, variety of fishes like anchovies, salmon, sardines, halibut, lamb. We have turkey, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds. One of the things that you can try if you want to be adding in more protein is try adding in some protein at every meal, or just at snacks with protein to distribute your protein throughout the day. I know there's people in the fibromyalgia community that talk about increasing your protein. If you're kind of trying to figure out what that looks for, see if you use some sort of nutritional app to help calculate how much of these macronutrients you're getting in every day. I use an app. I use the free version of Chronometer, and so I'll type in maybe a 2-week, even a week's worth of information in there, and it breaks down some of these macronutrients and also the nutrients that I'm getting from my food, so I can see if I'm deficient. I was actually surprised that I was getting in a lot more proteins than I even knew when I actually did that in typing in what types of proteins I was eating every day. So it's just good to actually have some values beforehand to gauge where you are actually at with the food that you are currently eating. When it comes to fats, so fats gets a bad rap, and it got a horrible rap in the 80s as we moved to low-fat foods. So whenever we take out stuff in our community and in the food and beverage space, they have to replace it with something. So what ended up happening was they replaced the fats in the low-fat food with a lot of refined sugar. And so this refined sugar is converted to body fat and really increased the level of triglycerides. But fats were the ones that were getting the bad rap. Now we need fats to provide support for brain health, connective tissue, and digestion. We need fat to absorb vitamins like A, D, E, and K. So distinguishing between the fats is an important piece of education. And sometimes you may have heard good fats, quality fats. What exactly does that break down to? And adding in some of these nutrient-rich fats, unsaturated fats like olive oils, avocados, can really add some impact in nutrition to your life and help you absorb some of those vitamins that we mentioned, especially like vitamin D. Trans fats overall recommended should be avoided because you want to work to lower that inflammation. And then there's new research that have evolved, this mixture of trans fats and sugar. So this is where we went wrong with not distinguishing from our fats. And then we didn't take out the sugars. We added a lot more sugars back in. So that just creates more of this inflammation, adds to weight gain, cardiometabolic diseases. So consider when you're looking at some of your foods, how you can add in a little bit of fats to each of your meals. So this could look like things like adding avocado slices. You can use it in a meal or a snack, olive oil or avocado oil to top your salads with. You can even top your salads with some nuts or seeds if you can tolerate it, or eat some nuts and seeds as a snack. There's definitely, if you can tolerate, some benefits to those as far as nutrients go. When it comes to carbohydrates, our body uses carbohydrates right away for the energy. And whatever your body does not use gets stored in your muscles, cells, or fat cells. The source and quality of carbohydrates, again, is an important distinguishing feature and really something to understand. So what you want to do is you want to look for carbohydrates that provide the body with vitamins, phytonutrients, polyphenols, fibers, and minerals. So what we're really talking about in carbohydrates to benefit you are vegetables. So vegetables are packed with various nutrients, and they're also high in fiber. You can also consider fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, and even dairy are both carbs and proteins. We do want to limit carbs coming from refined grains and sugars. So processed and convenience types of foods, what we're trying to do is minimize as much as possible. And here's the thing to think about. If you're eating a high carbohydrate food, really look at the nutritional profile and what it gives you. So there's a lot of impact when it comes to eating more vegetables and all the vitamin and minerals that it can bring into your body. And it'll just help you with digestion, help minimize some of the fatigue, give you a little bit more energy in the proper way, where there are foods out there that are high in carbs and they just sort of negate any nutritional impact that it has. So it's just one of those filler type carbohydrates, and you want to keep an eye out for those and see how you feel afterwards. Fiber. Many of us don't get enough fiber, and fiber is a type of carbohydrate found in plant food. And not eating enough fiber can contribute to imbalanced blood sugars, digestive symptoms, high cholesterol, and even hormonal imbalances. Try eating plant foods in their whole form. So to get the full benefits of fiber, try eating vegetables and fruit in the whole form. Aim to get 5 to 10 servings of vegetables a day, which I know sounds overwhelming too. And what we mean by whole form is if you're going to recommend an apple, like eat an apple, you see it in the picture, as opposed to apple juice. And I did say, like, juicing is notoriously marketed as healthy. Some people, it can really wreck your blood sugar because there isn't that fiber slowing down the food. So you're getting this big burst of energy with the juices or juice cleanses. So be aware of how your body feels. Some people love it and that's their approach, and they can use it temporarily and then they get back into it. But understand that you still need fiber for aiding that digestion. And many of you, if you do have high cholesterol, you hear it all the time from your providers to get more fiber. So adding in vegetables and fruits, you add in more of this fiber and you can eat it. And again, what do these servings really look like when it comes to, because these numbers can be overwhelming. So I wanted to break this down really quickly. So this is a serving of spinach, cucumber, and carrots together. So when you put them on the plate, here's where you start a basis of a salad. This is 3 servings of vegetables at the end with that salad all combined. So you're getting 3 servings of vegetables already right there, and you can vary it up. You can add in maybe some mushrooms to your salad or something else that you like. You can vary the leafy greens. So you can add some spinach, you can add some arugula, cabbage, whatever feels good to you, and just creating these colors and these different palettes. If you struggle with any sort of raw food, try blending it. Smoothies are a great way to add more nutrients and hide some of the vegetables, especially for families that may not notice it. You'll have to work on flavor palettes, but there's some good recipes out there for you. But you can add in a bunch of servings in the smoothie. It might be able, if you do have digestive issues, like steaming or blending is a good way to go. And it's also fun too. You can steam your vegetables really quickly as well. And there's nothing wrong too with frozen vegetables. Just turn over, read the food label, make sure you're only getting vegetables in there. And you can always steam it on those days where you have a lot of pain and fatigue. So where you're continuing to get the veggies in, add some olive oil or avocado oil to the salad as well. So you're getting some of those fats. You know, I like to add, maybe sometimes you add in some berries on top of your salad, or seasonally when they're available, some pomegranate, add some color. So you're looking at these varieties of greens, reds, oranges, and just diversify when it comes to the color of your plate. So thank you, everyone. We're going to have additional videos coming forward in our Nutrition and Fibromyalgia series. Stay tuned. I am Melissa Talwar. I am the Executive Director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network. I am also a board-certified functional medicine coach.